Welcome to the Leading Conversations podcast, sponsored by the Excel Leadership Network. On each episode, JD Pairing will have conversations with church planting pastors and leaders from around the country. You can learn more about how to connect with Excel at the end of this podcast. Let's join JD now and listen in on this leading conversation.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Leading Conversations podcast with the Excel Leadership Network. Today we have the stupendous, the amazing Sammy Moss with us.
Wow, that's my favorite intro I've ever gotten. So,
okay, it's great. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
And you're in Florida right now.
I'm on vacation on the west coast of Florida with my whole family.
Did you grow up in Florida?
I grew up in South Florida, outside Fort Lauderdale, and that's where I lived until I went to college in Ohio, and then I never left.
What town or towns in Broward County?
I was born in Boca Raton, but grew up most of my life in Coral Springs.
Okay. Is that Broward?
That's Broward. You're exactly right.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Good. Well, hey, tell us the story. Tell us growing up how you came to Jesus.
My conversion story is very simple. I came to Christ as a preschooler, praying with my mom, which is the most boring story to tell. And I used to resent how boring it was until I had kids. And now I pray every day that they, in 30 years, tell a really boring story like that. But my parents love the Lord, raised us in church, sent us to Christian school. And so we had this great foundation and legacy of walking with the Lord and a lot of models for doing that. So I had heard the gospel many times, like even just as a preschooler, and made that decision, and then really grew in my faith a ton. As a junior high student, I had an incredible youth pastor and student ministry. So learned to read my Bible and pray and be in community as like a 6th and 7th grader. And then went to a fantastic Christian college where that would be like my biggest, we called it always like a spiritual greenhouse. Like it's just where you grew like a weed, asking questions about the Lord and doing it alongside other people who believed the same things as you. And it was a really, really, really sweet time in my life. But my actual moment of salvation is literally as a 4-year-old. So praise God for that.
Wow. Well, that's really cool. That's cool. Did you have a time of rebellion and bad Sammy during dark Sammy?
Not I would tend more towards like a pharisaical religious, trying to save myself through doing stuff more than trying to run from those things. I'm an oldest child. I have all the oldest child tendencies, all the hero child tendencies. So I've really found myself more trying to work to earn things more than I did trying to run from anything. And that's so much of the Lord tethering me to himself, because if it was up to me, I probably would have run far. So I'm so grateful that he kept me. Yeah, I don't have a wild story. I snuck out of my house one time in high school. That's my
all right.
That's my dramatic story.
Did you get in trouble? Did you get caught?
No, I don't even know. No, my parents found out way later, after I was in the grade, that I ever did that.
Good for you. Now, you said you went to a Christian college. Where and why?
I went to Cedarville University, which is a small Christian college outside Dayton, Ohio.
Why would you do that? Why would you go from
do that?
Why would you go from South Florida to Ohio?
So here's the thing about Florida is that it's there's something called the Bright Future Scholarship, where if you receive a 3.5 GPA or higher as a high school student, the Bright Futures will pay for 75% of your in-school tuition, which is a crazy good deal. And it also means that very few kids leave the state of Florida. So everyone I knew was staying near the town I grew up in was a big, nice university. So a lot of kids just lived at home and commuted. And I just didn't want that. I had lived my whole life in Florida and it was fun, but I was ready to see somewhere else in the world. So I chose the cornfields of Ohio as my like wild adventure. But my high school science teacher had gone to Cedarville and he was like, I think you should check it out. I think you would like it. And it was the furthest school I visited. It's 18 hours from where I grew up. And my dad and I went on a college visit. There were 4 inches of snow on the ground and it was -2. And I was like, this is it. This is where I want to be.
Really?
So, yeah.
I have been to Cedarville.
Okay. So, you know.
Well, David Bennett went there. I'd never heard of it until Dave Bennett.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went there one time and I'm just like trying to wrap my head around somebody saying, this is it.
This is it. It does not make sense. It's literally cornfields on one side, a school, and like we had to drive far to do anything. Right. So it did not make a lot of logistics sense. And it was a little bit of a culture shock for me when I showed up in this like small town, middle America, so unlike the like melting pot that I had grown up in. And, but I made my best friends at Cedarville and I met my husband at Cedarville. So it was worth it.
Okay. You met your husband there?
Yep.
Is there a lot of that going on at Cedarville?
Yes, there is.
Okay. Yeah, that's what Christian colleges are for.
That's right.
Yeah. I had a different experience on that. But anyway, so what did you study in school?
My degree is in organizational communications, and then I have a minor in women's ministry and Bible. We all have Bible minors when you graduate from Cedarville, but I liked to talk. That's really the beginning and end of it. I talked to myself a lot as a kid. I was in the theater program as a high school student and thought like, how do I do this as a job? And I thought I wanted to do like broadcasting, like be on the news. And Cedarville didn't have a program for that. So I chose communications, which is like the most broad catch-all major you can ever have. You can do anything or you can do nothing. And I chose a track that was more like public relations related. So that's how I spent most of my time, was like marketing, PR.
Yeah. Did you sense a call to ministry there, or what's that about?
Really? So when I was a college sophomore, I knew I was called to ministry and I had no clue how it was going to work out, because like I said, I knew I had these strengths in like communication and public speaking and even like the marketing side of things. And I had never seen how someone could leverage that in a ministry setting. But then I also knew I had this like teaching gift, which was confusing because Cedarville is
women don't have those, do they?
Conservative in that way, which I like loved how like strongly they believed that, like the conviction in that. But it was really confusing to me as a 20-year-old, because I was like, how do I use this gift that I know that the Lord has given me? And I had no idea how the ministry thing was going to play out. So I just basically kept looking for opportunities to use the gifts that I had. We had a traveling worship team that Cedarville sent out, and I got connected to them and did like all of their social media and like PR kind of things. And I was like, if this is it, this is great. This is a great way to use my skills in ministry. And just, again, it was like this continual asking the Lord to show me what was next. But I knew I was called. I just had no idea how that was going to play out.
So what was next?
So I graduated from Cedarville in May of 2015. John and I got married in June of 2015, and he already had a job in Cincinnati. So we were moving. I was moving to Cincinnati. He was already there. And, I did the thing that most people do right after they graduate college, which is send a ton of resumes to every open job posting and never hear back from any of them. And one of them was to a church called Rivers Crossing. It was in Mason, Ohio. They were hiring an executive assistant, and I'd never been there. I didn't know really anything about it. I just knew it was like a position at a church, and I thought maybe I could do that. And that would be like using my gifts and following this ministry call. But I probably applied for that job in early summer and didn't hear anything until the fall. And again, when you're sending out all these applications, you're like, they found someone else, that's no big deal. And so I was working a little part-time job. I didn't really love doing social media, working remotely from my apartment, and just like looking for any kind of a change. So when I got a call from Rivers Crossing, I didn't even remember that I had applied for the job. And
Oh, wow.
our kids director called me and was like, "Are you still interested in this executive assistant position that you applied for? We also have another open position you might be interested in." And I was like, "Could you please remind me what job this is and where you are?" And so I went in for an interview that fall, and that kind of began this 3-month long interview process again, because I had never been there. Like, they had no idea who I was. I didn't know who they were. And by December of 2015, I joined the team to be the executive assistant to our lead pastor. And that was the beginning of an almost 10-year long time on staff, doing a lot of things, working with church planters as a result of that, getting to have some speaking opportunities. And again, the Lord just like revealing more and more of this calling on my life as I served his local church in that way.
What was it like being at Rivers Crossing? I mean, during those were like some incredible years of the church just exploding in a good way.
Oh yeah. When I joined this staff, we probably had less than 20 people on staff. We had 2 services, and it was incredible then. But then to see things grow, and especially to see the church planting side of things grow. We had this 10 and 10 initiative to plant 10 churches in 10 years. We did that and then launched another network out of that. And to see those things grow and explode was so exciting. And just to see so much life change up close was really amazing. But what John and I, my husband, would both say is, we both came out of Cedarville, which was like high value of the scriptures, an awareness of the Holy Spirit, but not an equal value of the Holy Spirit. So we came in like very Bible conscious. And what we saw at Rivers Crossing was this incredible balance of like word and spirit, and how the Holy Spirit makes the Christian life much more enjoyable and possible to walk with the Lord. So that was the biggest change in our personal lives that we got to see. And then we got to see that happen in so many other people's lives as they experienced the power of the Holy Spirit, perhaps for the first time, when they came to Rivers Crossing. So it was amazing. It was an incredible 10 years of ministry and growing our family, like our kids. Like, I had all our kids while I was on staff, and they got to grow up in that context too. So it's really special.
Cool. And you got to do some church planting stuff and even some stuff with Excel, right?
Yes. In 2018, our lead pastor, Paul Taylor, asked me if I wanted to like do the other side of Discovery Center. And I was like, sure. And he said, well, the first thing you have to do is come to California in January. And I was like, that I can do. So we met in 2018 doing a Discovery Center. And then I got bit by this church planting bug. I can't quit them. I love Discovery Centers. I love getting to be with church planters. And so I've been doing Discovery Centers kind of like on the side for almost 9 years now, which is wild.
Wow. Hey, so you're doing this job, you're doing it great. You have some opportunities there, but seems like God was moving in your heart, moving a little bit differently.
Yes. So like I said, I knew I was called to ministry as a 20-year-old. I knew I had a teaching gift. I knew that that's how the Lord wanted to use me. I just didn't know how that was going to look. I started discipling some girls one-on-one in our church, like young adult girls. And that really opened up a lot of things for me where I was like, this is what I want to do, like, but on a bigger scale. Like, we're doing this on a micro level. I'd love to do it on a macro level. So it just, around 2024, the Lord kind of began stirring that in my heart and in John's heart. We started praying about what was next for us. Some pastor friends of ours from Excel were in town. I'll like never forget this moment where they were in our home and just prayed for us, like spoke prophetically over us about the next season of our ministry. And I couldn't imagine not doing the job that I had been doing, but I also knew that the Lord was getting me ready for something else. And so in the spring of 2025, I resigned my position as executive assistant and was again back in this spot, kind of similarly to where I was as a 20-year-old, just saying like, Lord, I'll do whatever you ask me. I just have no idea what it's going to look like. and basically just spent the next year discipling more and more girls. I just kept saying, if you bring them to me, Lord, I'll do whatever it takes to see them walk with you in a faithful way, and becomes what I call Psalm 1 girls, who are rooted and planted, flourishing because of their nearness to Christ. So that's what I thought I was going to do for the rest of my life, is just, if this is it, I'll keep doing it, discipling girls, meeting with them, praying for them, and then watching the Lord do incredible things in their life. So it was a lot of questions and a lot of the Lord showing up and answering them in ways that I had not predicted, which is generally how he works. And
it's amazing that you had the freedom to do that.
Yes.
Financially, or, I mean,
yes.
Most people don't get that opportunity.
I've told this story a couple times, and it's really moving to me every time. I went in on a Tuesday to resign my position, and my husband sells commercial truck insurance, and he has this client that he was working on for months. He should have closed this deal the month before. And I came home that Tuesday of resigning, and the first thing John said to me was that he closed the account he'd been working on, and his commission was the exact amount of my salary. And it was if I didn't need the Lord to confirm it in such a clear way, but he did. Mm-hmm. And so it is a huge gift that I was able to do that. And that John has always been the biggest believer in the Lord's calling on my life, and my biggest cheerleader. And then continually in these ways, that is clear to me. So it was cool time and time again to watch the Lord confirm this is the right next step for you.
Well, cool. What's it like being a woman with a call to ministry in kind of we're in a weird atmosphere now where you get these groups women can't do anything, they're barefoot, pregnant, home with the kids, or men are toxic, you can't be around them, so women have to take over. Just what is that like? Plus, you got this teaching gift. What am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah. What I've learned in 30 years of walking with the Lord is so much of what I think my life is going to look like is nothing compared to how he thinks it's going to look. And that has been true in this, especially of I envisioned, especially as a college student, I'll just be a speaker on a main stage. I remember going to Women of Faith conferences with my mom as a high school student and being oh, well, then that's what I'll do. I'll just travel the world and tell people about Jesus from a stage. And that would be amazing, incredible if the Lord put that in front of me. But what is also teaching and speaking and leading is the time that I spend with my kids around the breakfast table. It's opening my Bible with another college girl. I think for a lot of, especially my formative years in my young 20s, I was looking for a platform to be able to then teach from when the Lord was preparing me to just teach whoever was in front of me. And then he would provide the other opportunities as I continued to be faithful to that. So yes, it is a tumultuous and weird time, because you're right. There's these two polar opposite groups of people, and how do you find somewhere in the middle and be faithful to the scriptures and also faithful to who the Lord's made me to be? But I've really kind of kept my head down and out about all of that, because I'm just doing what the Lord's asked me to do, however that has looked. And there doesn't really feel like there's an end goal or an ultimate prize. It's just the continual discipleship of the people around me.
Well, that's just such a balanced view. I've never seen you with an edge either way on that, which is really refreshing. And I know God's got wonderful things in store for you. But so what are you doing now?
So now, very excitingly, I am serving at our new church. It's called All Church, also here in Cincinnati, as the women's ministry lead. So we were connected to All Church because they're another church plant in the city of Cincinnati. And they came to me in the late last fall and said, hey, we're we're looking for someone to like do this as a staff role, to be over our women's ministry. And that has been obviously the dream for as many years as I can remember. And they, in this February of this year, handed me a job description that's like, I would have written the job description for myself, like writing curriculum, teaching it live, creating pathways for older women to mentor and disciple younger women, just leading women in biblical womanhood. How does it look to walk with Jesus in every arena of our life? As wives, moms, college students, all of the things. So I joined the team in May of 2026. So I feel like I'm just starting to figure it out, like what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and learning and growing alongside that team as well. So I'm doing that. I'm still doing church planting, discovery centers. I still have my own ministry, Sammy Moss Ministry. So I take like speaking engagements, other opportunities to teach and write, things like that. So I'm doing a little bit of everything, but all of it is like the exact sweet spot of what I've always wanted to be doing, which is so exciting. Like I say all the time at all church, like I'm holding myself back from how excited I am about all of this. It feels too good to be true to have this be my job. Things that I would have done as a volunteer for the rest of my life, I get to do here with this team. And so it's really exciting.
Great. We'll talk about Sammy Moss Ministries.
Don't make fun of me for it.
That's a red flag. No,
I know.
What are you doing? You're coaching, disciple writing, speaking.
Yes.
What are you doing there?
So I'm doing a little bit of everything. So I'm currently writing a Bible study curriculum through the book of Mark. And I used it this past fall and winter with a small group of young adult girls as basically like a pilot to see if it really worked. You know, like we spent 1 week in each chapter of Mark asking a lot of questions, observation, interpretation, application. It's basically repackaged inductive Bible study, but like, how do we do it together in community? And so that's under that heading of Sammy Moss Ministries. I've also had the opportunity this spring. I spoke at Covenant Church, where Luke Allen's the pastor, and at their women's conference, which was like so exciting. That was like total dream come true. So I'd love to do more of that.
So you're available to do that. You know,
Yes.
For women's conferences, women's retreats, there's not like, hey, here's a list of 400 people. I mean, it's a way shorter list than it should be. So how does somebody contact you for that? What do they do?
I would love any opportunity to do that. So you can contact me, Sammy at sammymossministries.com. And I also have a website, sammymossministries.com. But so yes, any opportunity for that, any kind of coaching for like other women in women's ministry specifically, anything to do with young adults. I have that opportunity this summer as well at our church to be like on a speaking team for our young adult ministry. So anything to do with that is like my wheelhouse. So that I'm doing a little bit of everything.
Are you on the coaching list for Excel?
I don't think so, but you can add me, or I might be. I don't know.
You'll need to reach out to our coaching lead, because we're always looking for good coaches, male, female, or whatever.
I'd love it.
So talk a little bit about the writing.
So the writing, I've always been like a writer, a journaler, all of the things. But I started writing specifically this Bible study the beginning of 2025. I had studied through the book of Mark for most of 2024 and really encountered this like what I call 3-dimensional version of Jesus that I had not encountered before. He just was like a full personality, like way more compelling than I had ever realized, specifically in this gospel. And so I was like, I feel like more people need to read and talk about the Gospel of Mark. So I just started, at that point, I was still working full-time at Rivers Crossing. So I made this plan for the year that I would spend 1 hour a week writing. And that's all I did. Like I would leave my house, leave John with the kids, go sit in a coffee shop and just write for an hour. And it was amazing, like what you can get done when you like are not doing anything else for 1 hour. And so I wrote, basically it's a catch-all. Like it can be the live teaching. It was the small group questions. It was just like anything I had learned, reading through the Gospel of Mark and doing research and all of that. So it's not quite done yet, but it is, I think I'm in chapter 12 of 16. So that is how I've been writing it. And then I used a lot of that to walk through Mark with these 3 young adult girls this fall and wrote some more questions, took a lot of stuff that they were saying and added it in. So it's been a long, slow process, which is really good for me because that's not generally how I do anything. It's usually much faster. And so it's good to like have been sitting in it for like a year and a half now. And I love it. It is like one of my favorite things I get to do is just like write and be in the Word doing that. So
you can sit down at your laptop for an hour and write something.
Yes. And I never thought I would be able to do it.
That's wonderful. Doesn't work that way for me. It's even though that's a really great discipline. You know, when I was writing my first book, it was like, how am I supposed to, you know? And I saw this thing from Jerry Seinfeld. I don't know if I ever told you.
You
this.
have said this to me, but say it again.
Yeah, well, just one of the comedians, I guess in the 80s, before he even had a show, said, "Hey, how do you do it? You're such a good writer and crafter of the jokes. Do you wait till you get inspired? Do you go sit down for an hour with your no?" And he said he writes 5 minutes a day, and every day, and he just put a check on his calendar and never let that check thing, train, you know, stop. And someday, and I did that for the first book that I wrote, and it was really helpful because some days I'd just do 5 minutes, or it would just be like editing. And then other days you're like, you start for 5 minutes and 3 hours later, you're like, oh my goodness. So I love that you have a process. That's fantastic that you can do that. And the idea of just writing down what's there rather than I got to do this thing. So, well, yeah, definitely keep us informed of anything you write. So that would be great. Hey, give us, I'm going to ask for several things. Give us a tip for the young girls, young women that you're coaching. What's a tip you'd have for a younger person?
The very best encouragement I got in the last year and a half. I've gotten a lot of incredible encouragement in the last year and a half of discerning this next ministry step. But the best has been, one of my friends looked at me one day and was like, why don't you just go do it? Stop waiting for it to be the exact right time or perfect environment and just go do it. So if it is in you to write or teach, just start writing. Or for me, that was the encouragement I needed to start leading these girls through the content I'd already written. And the way that the Lord will bless just our first step of obedience and snowball it into something so much bigger is so incredible to be a part of. And so my encouragement now to any girl in my life is you want to teach, just go do it. Just find someone to teach. And that feels like it would be way harder than it is, but there's so many girls just looking for someone to care about their life, to pray for them, to offer them encouragement.
That's good. That's really, really good. Now, give us a leadership tip. What would you say you've worked under lead pastors and, under some lead, what do you say to the pastors over you? What's a bit of advice? Because you've seen the good, the bad, the ugly. I mean, you've seen me have some be wonderful and also just be like, oh, what's wrong with that guy? So what, as somebody who's you were the lead executive assistant, give us, because there's some a lot of pastors who listen to this. What do we need to hear? And we don't have an hour. So I mean,
No, my number one, and I say this to a lot of church planters, is like, find a great assistant. Like, that's not me being biased. I was an okay assistant. But I did love doing it. But I think what can happen for lead pastors when they start delegating to somebody else. Paul Taylor always said to me, like, I need you to do this stuff so I can do the thing that God has called me to do, which is like lead this church and preach messages on Sunday. And so the more I could take off of his plate, the more he could run in that lane that only he could run in. And so that delegation is a huge leadership thing, right? That you can say, no, I don't have to have my hand in all of these things. I can give that to someone else that I trust. So finding an assistant, even if it's a volunteer, like, you don't have to, it doesn't have to be this like 40 hours a week executive assistant. There's someone who I'm sure would love to color code a spreadsheet and make your meeting appointments and all of those things. So that's always my number one. Find a great assistant. I'm trying to think of any other things. That's my biggest one. And I think just knowing your team, like knowing their giftings, the calling on their life, that continual check-in of like, not only are we doing this thing together as a team, but like, what has the Lord equipped and called you to do as an individual? And like, just the continual conversation around that, checking in about that is important.
That's really good. Now, last one, just a general leadership tip for anybody and everybody. What's your leadership tip?
This is what the Lord's teaching me right now, which is so helpful in leadership as I'm leading a new ministry. There's so many things that I want to microwave that the Lord wants to like put in the crock pot. And I have activator number one as my number one strength. And there is so much strength to activator, but there's also a lot of downsides to activator where I just want to get up and go, leave everybody else in the dust, and then not even finish the task that I started. And so I want to see those results happen so much more quickly when like walking with the Lord, leading the team, the ministry, the church that he's called us to is so much more the Eugene Peterson long obedience in the same direction. Like that Psalm 1, rooted and planted. You can't dig down roots in 1 month or 30 seconds. Like that's going to take time. And so giving ourselves the time. And I often find myself putting myself on a timeline that no one else has put me on. I just think I'm running behind. And there is no running behind when you're walking with the Lord. He knows, he's charted out every day. My times are in his hands. Like he's the one holding it all together. And I don't need to be worried that I'm going to come in late or miss the opportunity to do the thing that he's asked me to do. So I think the more we can look for the long, slow, deep roots, the better we're going to be as Christ followers, the better leaders we're going to be. We're not going to be rushing our teams to some end that doesn't even need to be rushed to. So that's where I am in this season, asking the Lord to give me that kind of perspective.
That's a really hard word for us activators.
Yes, it is.
I'm heading right into this coaching meeting, and we're going through this Dan Sullivan stuff. This is it Jocko Willink or what? Anyway, it's on developing leaders, and it's like, well, it takes at least 5 years to develop a leader, and it takes them at least 10 years to develop a leader. So to develop a leader who's developing leaders, like 15 years. You're like, 15 years? I'm going to be dead in 15 years. What are you talking about? So I appreciate you don't have to go that fast. So
no.
Well, hey, thanks, Sammy. I really admire you, appreciate you. You've been such a big part of what we're doing at Excel. Thanks for being on.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining the Leading Conversations podcast. We hope that you found it both helpful and encouraging. At Excel Leadership Network, our focus is on the church planter rather than the church. If you'd like to find out more about us, visit our webpage at excelnetwork.org. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. See you next time with another Leading Conversation.